Listen. So Vinny and the family are back in order to save cinemas and welcome you back to
the movies.
They brought back Justin Lin, who directed Tokyo Drift. He also did numbers 4, 5, and 6, where he had the longest runway of all time. And now he's got a runaway truck that skids the length of Route 66. I personally see this one as a reset before the final 2 movies that Vin says he's going to be doing to wrap it all up. So it's kind of like 4, where they just dropped the thes, but that followed up the biggest shift in the saga. And now that Vin doesn't have that pebble in his shoe, he gets to step on the pedal and steer the story the way that he wants to. Is it ridiculous? It's absolutely ludicrous, to the point that the titles are now just keyboard shortcuts where F8 equaled fate and F9 equals just fine. Let me explain. Now, after the last one, they went into hiding since, they retire after every movie until they get the next one to come out. The big issue is that Cipher's back sporting an Edgar cut, but because she's locked up in a box like Zemo, she's manipulating the super rich dude's son and Dom's lost brother to collect their version of the Mission Impossible and espresso pods that, when put together, become a powerful weapon to control the world. But Vin is mostly focused on
family.
John Cena plays Jakob Toretto, who's never been brought up the entire series until Vin needed another WWE star who would follow his rules, take his punches, and not the cent. Personally, I was really looking forward to seeing what he was going to bring to the table, but I think they did him dirty. Like, not only is he betrayed by his own family, which leads him into becoming a bad guy, but eventually his own goons turn on him too. Like, they gave his younger version more scenes than Cena had, and legit had this man apologizing to a whole country during the press run. Like, I wish I didn't have to see it. I know it's the Vinny show, and I'm always going to be Team Diesel all the way, but I feel like the biggest adversary that he's had literally has been The Rock. Like, there's even a line in the movie where he says it's not about being stronger, but being the bigger man. Like, what? Just at Dwayne at that point. But I know that he's just happy to be back in the driver's seat, taking full control, and he ain't swerving.
No one ever called me and said, would you be comfortable with Jason Statham being in the franchise? That question doesn't come across my desk. That's a Vin Diesel play.
Everybody, for the most part, comes back in order to fight Cipher and take down the brother. Tyrese is out there dodging mines like he does on Twitter. Ramsey is hacking like she's playing Arkham Knight, while Tej has clickety-clacked his way into her heart, leaving Roman with no romance. And Vin continues to work with the most noble of actors. Like, he's worked with Dame Judi Dench. He's like best friends with Sir Michael Caine, and he brings back Dame Helen Mirren to steal the show. Cars, jewelry.
Queenie doesn't pay retail for anything.
That said, I want him to bring back Hector from the first, because by this point he should have gone pro, and hopefully they finally given him a surname.
They call me Hector. Got a last name too, but I can't pronounce it, so.
A big part of this one are the flashbacks to 1989 that show the young Toretto bros working under their dad, who's gotten into so much debt that he plans to throw a race, but ends up getting Ricky Bobbied, as explained in the first.
A guy named Kenny Linder came up from inside in the final turn. Clipped his bumper and put him into the wall at 120.
Obviously, the Fast series has its religious overtones, and knowing that Jakob in the Bible was the younger sibling to a twin who tried to take his brother's birthright, you know that's something they're definitely alluding to, but he is also the biblical character who wrestled with God, so I'm sure that was on Vin's mind too. He ends up blaming his brother for their dad's death, not knowing that he was just listening to what Papa Toretto had to say and didn't know that he was going to blow up, as we get to see the beating that was mentioned in the first movie that got him locked up.
2 years in lockup.
Toretto did hard time for nearly beating a guy to death.
I had a wrench, and I hit him, and I didn't intend to keep hitting him, but by the time I was done, I couldn't lift my arms.
It's in jail where he meets a younger Santos and Leo, who wasn't present in this movie, like he hasn't been at his concerts. But Santos is played by Ozuna, who was one of 3 new artists in this one. They also had Bad Bunny as a lookout. They had Cardi B playing Interpol, but even in Dolby, they just offset her dialogue.
My daughter wanted a piece of casting to happen, so Cardi B is in it.
Dímelo, papi. Yeah, I hate saying that. Because, I don't really flirt in Spanish.
They just need to cast Rihanna soon. They also cast younger versions of all of the mains from the first one, as they flash back to a bit where Dom outraces his brother out of the Familia, leaving Michael Rooker, who Vince worked with in the past and he brings in, to be Jacob's guardian when nobody else is there for him. And while the flashbacks help flesh out the Torettos and build up to the thematic quote that is making peace with the past in order to have a better future, y'all know that the bigger quote comes from knowing that profit from prequels takes you even farther. Michelle, in my opinion, has built up one of the most fleshed out characters. Like, Dom has died in her arms twice, and she still has the power to boot him back up. But she herself has also fought for Letty against the studio in order to make sure that she doesn't become a cliche, and I think that she's held her own throughout the franchise.
Would you believe I knocked him out with my charm?
They're also finally doing justice to Mia, who, look, I get why they took her out because of Brian and that whole scenario, but, she's also a Toretto, and she should have never been left out of F8.
It's not that it felt great to be back, it just felt so odd to be gone. It felt like it didn't really makes sense. So it's wonderful to be back.
And now they're actually giving her action sequences, and somehow finally has a conversation with Letty, who's her own sister-in-law.
And I'm like, yes, finally, after, what was it? It only took 18 years.
And even though it was done in the goofiest way possible, they finally brought back Han. It turns out that Giselle had worked for Mr. Nobody, and after her death, he reached out to Han and was able to fake his death in Tokyo Drift for some reason, because Mr. Nobody also has like an F9 budget of special effects in his pocket. And even though we've seen that scene from multiple angles, and it doesn't make any sense, obviously they were alluding to so many Star Wars references in this one that they weren't going to miss out this one either.
No one's ever really gone.
The main reason they brought him back, though, was because of all the fan petitions that wanted justice for Han, since nothing's more disrespectful than having one of the family members die and then giving that killer a spin-off. So I'm glad that he's back, since him and director Justin Lin go way back to their film Better Luck Tomorrow, which is unofficially, the origin story to Han, since they play the same character, same name. Homie just went from smoking in all of his scenes to snacking.
The way you always have to keep your hands and mouth busy, you were a two-pack a day man for sure.
And wondering if they'll bring back his woman. Han wasn't solo though since we last saw him, since he's been taking care of this new character whose parents were the scientists who created this Ares weapon. The key just so happens to be in her DNA. They drift in the rest of the Tokyo crew, with Bow Wow losing the Lil, Sean having an even thicker accent, and Earl building a rocket that's gonna take them into space. Now what's crazy is that NASA actually worked with them for the space sequences to make sure that everything was done well, particularly the part where they flew a Pontiac Fiero into a satellite and came out unscathed. If you went back to the 01 premiere and told them that they'd be going to space, the F1 fans would have told you to F off. Now, they're magnetically zoinking cars, they're driving through these minesweeper levels, Dom's Charger still helps him dodge everything in his way, as they're practically working with Mario Kart physics. Like, Rainbow Road follows more logic than these movies. But they figured, just have Tyrese call it out, and that would put to rest the fact that they're all practically... At this point, they fully become superheroes, avenging their fallen. Like, these cars are driving up 90-degree angles. Dom legit Spider-Man his car across 2 cliffs. Man, he even turned into Bane in one of these scenes where he's fighting off, no lie, 20 dudes all by himself, literally cracking backs in what looks like the same set from Rises. They pulled a Dark Knight flip with these 2 tiny cars, to the point that it was so ridiculous, it might as well have just been these 2 bros hitting it with their own shoulders. Personally, I wish they just reeled it back a little bit, because even though they're being very self-referential, it doesn't change the fact that it's kind of like cutting the stakes. Like, we never feel any threat to any of these characters because we know they're just going to survive, and even if they're gone, they're going to come back from the dead. But we're also talking about a series that went from being an action crime thriller to now being an action adventure crime thriller, and you can add space to that, and it's just going to keep growing. Vince talked about wanting to do a Fast musical. Hell, go ahead and make F-13 a horror, add some time travel in there, and since they're both Universal, you know that they continue to bring up the fact that they want him to fight against dinosaurs.
5 years from now, remember you said that.
As long as they end up hitting all 7 continents, just go crazy, I don't know what's taking them so long to go to Africa, but it'd be really cool to see them in Antarctica too. By the end, everyone comes out unscathed, t-shirts whiter than ever, as Dom is able to not pull a cane and forgives his brother as they go their separate ways. Cipher is still on the loose with her Oliver Tree haircut, and the family gives grace that they've made it to 9 and fastened themselves for the finale to come.
This is the end of this mythology. This is the end of this leg era of the saga.
And that ain't bad for a dude who used to live his life a quarter mile at a time. Thank you all for checking out this video. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I know at the end they do a little nod to Brian pulling up to the OG house that they're rebuilding in his car, so it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to honor him, or they, going to recast, pull the CGI stuff again, but they are shooting number 10 and 11 back to back, and I think they're going to be calling them part 1 and part 2, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do with it, because there was even a quote where they said that the Torettos always think they're the heroes in their own story, and if you look back to all the crazy stuff that they've done, like, at a certain point, I'm sure that they have some victims out there. I'm sure someone does not like the Torettos, and they might be coming back to get them, so we'll see. I know that they said they got the final shot already in the can, like, they know what they're going to shoot. I don't know if it's going to be like Vin sacrificing his life, that would be where he surpasses The Rock in my opinion, but I know it's all about his legacy at this point. He's cast his own son to be in the movie, so it's going to be something where, it's a thing that's going to be lasting for a while. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know your theories, your favorites, and anything else dealing with the saga. And until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.
We'll see you soon.